I'm Jackie Cohen-Roth. Welcome to another CBMD video profile. Our video profiles are my conversations with professionals that are leading today's medical cannabis industry, whether they be entrepreneurs, owner-operators, scientists, researchers, regulators. I'm very excited today to host Mike Hennesy, who's Vice President of Innovation at Wana Brands. Mike shares a commitment to establishing industry best practices and the delivery of a quality medical patient care. So we're going to be into that more in a bit. Now share some background of Mike. I'm actually very excited right away to share that he and I are both in the Masters of Science in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics at the unique program the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy is offering. Prior to that, Mike graduated from University of Maryland. We shared that connection as well with an undergraduate degree in environmental science and technology. Mike works for, again, as for Wana Brands as the Vice President of Innovation. Wana Brands itself was founded in 2011 by co-founder and current CEO Nancy Whiteman as a cannabis edible company. Mike oversees research and development, business analytics, training programs, and strategic partnership building. He developed Wana's online interactive training program that covers the science of endocannabinoid medicine. And prior to his current role, Mike managed a sales team that has been instrumental in expanding Wana's 3-year growth rate of an astounding number, 270%. So congratulations on that success. According to BDS Analytics 2019 brand share report, Wana Brands is the #1 edibles brand in the United States with more dollars sold than any other brand. Wana products are available, and Michael, correct me, I believe in 7 states, including Colorado, California, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Arizona, Oregon, Maryland, Oklahoma, Florida, and we'll speak more about this as well as Canada. So welcome, Mike, delighted to have you here.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Pleasure to be here. Yes, we're currently operating in 9 states, and
Nice.
Just last week, we launched in Canada.
Congratulations, that's exciting. Mike is going to be joining some industry colleagues on the Future of Medical Cannabis Roundtable for our Cannabis MD, Cannabis Science and Therapeutics Provider Education Forum on October 3rd. During that roundtable discussion, Mike and his colleagues are going to be examining the intersection of the cannabis industry, technology, pharmaceutical, traditional healthcare, and I don't know if I had mentioned the pharmaceutical industry. And the discussion will include guidance on approaches to multidisciplinary collaboration and the practical application of translational research models to advance cannabis science. I take a pause because I blew that one, so we're going to edit. I'm going to go back over that.
Totally.
Okay. Mike and his industry colleagues on the Future Medical Cannabis Roundtable of the upcoming Cannabis MD, Cannabis Science and Therapeutics Provider Education Forum are going to be discussing the intersection of the traditional legacy cannabis industry, as I refer to it, traditional healthcare, the pharmaceutical industry, and technology. Their discussion will include guidance on approaches to multidisciplinary approaches and collaboration and the practical application of translational research models to advance medical cannabis science. And we'll share more about the forum at the end of this profile. So again, welcome, Mike. Excited to see where this conversation goes.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to the roundtable and the great discussion there.
Thanks. So curious, so what brought you from, or what took you from environmental science into the cannabis industry?
You know, that's a great question. So at the University of Maryland, I was pursuing environmental science and had a deep passion for that. I also used cannabis in college, but it wasn't any sort of medical use or anything like that. I had already become disillusioned by things like the DARE program and the war on drugs, but I quite hadn't taken to heart how it could be used as a medicine. That changed later in college, living with a roommate that had a form of epilepsy. And I witnessed firsthand how the cannabis products he was using could prevent and treat seizures that he was having. And I could see how much of a debilitating disease it was when he didn't have access to any of his medicine. And that really catalyzed for me that not only was the drug war something that was imprisoning nonviolent drug offenders that shouldn't be happening, but that we were also missing out on a great medicine that could truly help people. Got me thinking. I graduated right around when Colorado had just passed the law for legalization in 2012. And I pretty intentionally moved to Colorado, both for the environmental and outdoor aspects the state offers here, but also as a curiosity of what could happen with the cannabis industry. And pretty much got involved as soon as I got out here. Started working for Wana Brands as a sales rep, and really kind of started to grow along with the nascent business, and saw as the industry developed from a very small group of companies essentially infusing all kinds of different edibles to a very mature market that's creating very medicinal and very well produced products that meet a wide variety of consumers' needs.
Yeah, and in your role as Vice President of Innovation, so I'm guessing you have your hands in a lot of things. The technological innovations impacts the ability. One of the biggest areas of conversation and need for discussion is centered around dosing. So we talk about edibles as one of the ways to dose, and to the challenge is to optimize the therapeutic effects of that particular dose, where that the patient isn't affected by psychoactive events. So what's critically missing in the medical cannabis industry is that full acceptance of healthcare providers, since there are those significant hurdles to these clinical studies. You and I were chatting before recording this, and where all of us in the industry know and are quite frustrated, and all the research papers that we're reading and writing, everybody pretty much comes to the same conclusion: is more research is needed. So back to edibles being an accurate way to dose medical cannabis, it's also an extremely lucrative niche in the cannabis industry. Benzinga reports that the edible market is expected to be worth more than $4.1 billion in the US and Canada by 2022. So that's a significant industry. And so with that, I threw out a bunch of things for us to talk about. Is what are you doing specific to innovation, where again, that challenge to dosing, right away. And then if you would touch upon any challenges that you've faced with now that you're working with Canada, and where in the US our doses, again, every state has its own independent set of regulations about what dosing or the amount of edibles in milligrams that a patient can walk out of a medical dispensary with. It's significantly lower in Canada. So back up and give us a background on that. And then again, we'll talk about what you're doing.
Certainly. So, I think it all comes back to what you're talking about is technological innovations. And that's really how I transitioned my role from sales management into VP of innovation, was really starting to apply what I had learned around chemistry and biology to understanding cannabinoids better as the industry developed. And one of the big things with cannabis edibles, as everyone knows, they have a very low bioavailability and a long onset time. And this is a huge barrier for dosing and for medical providers to be able to give good, consistent instruction on how to use cannabis edibles. One of the things that we've been doing at Wana is looking at how we can improve the bioavailability of cannabinoids, both to improve essentially individuals' inconsistencies in how it affects them. When you have a product that's very low in bioavailability, it could affect one individual strongly and another much less strongly. And as you improve the bioavailability, you improve the consistency of the experience and what you're getting. You also are able to reduce the onset time. And that's a big barrier for edibles. And by reducing that onset time, it lets patients more accurately dose to the level that's going to give them the right level of medical benefits. They can titrate their own dose more easily as opposed to waiting hours in between consuming a dose to find where it is that they're getting the benefits they need without having a strongly psychoactive effect. Another thing when you're talking about psychoactive effect is not just dosing with the highest amount of THC possible. The more we understand about cannabis and the way that it can be a medically beneficial compound is that there's other compounds within it, in that CBD can help mediate the effects of THC. And so coming up with a wide variety of ratios of CBD and THC can really help a patient find the right product for them and the right level of psychoactivity for them. And so products that are very high in CBD can offer no psychoactivity while still getting the medical benefits that they're looking for. The other thing that we believe in strongly, and I think is away from just a high THC product, is including the terpenes that you find in the cannabis as well. And so reintroducing those terpenes into edible products and making them bioavailable enough to actually be absorbed and effective in the brain can help reduce the amount of THC you need to get the same, anxiety relieving or, medical benefits that people are looking for. And it's really all of those different pieces being put into an edible. So cannabis, I think when the industry got started, was thought of as something that you just put into a brownie. But really, it's something that you need to find the right genetics for, the right growing conditions, the right extraction. You're all aiming for the right blend of cannabinoids and terpenes for a patient and having a different variety of different types of products. So it's not one size fits all. Everyone's endocannabinoid system is unique, and good cannabis brands create a wide variety of products for different use cases. And so that's how we're using technical innovations to improve our products. It's not just making something that tastes good. It's really more importantly making something that works well, is easy to use, it's easy to get instruction on how to use, and you can avoid things like overconsumption and issues that we've seen with edibles in the past. Now, talking about over or under consumption, it's an interesting space that every state has its own rules and regulations on dosing. Canada has its own rules and regulations on dosing. What we've aimed for is to create as much consistency among our product lines as possible from state to state, and completely homogeneous products that allow consumers to cut them into halves, quarters, or even less to titrate their dose from there and find exactly the level they need. So in Canada, for example, while the max dose is 10 milligrams, we're putting two gummies, each with 5 milligrams a piece, that even then can be cut into smaller dosages so the customers can help find the right dose for them. Now, Canada does have an issue where some consumers might need more than 10 milligrams, and this is going to become an issue just from a regulation standpoint of finding the right dose for them if they need more than 10 milligrams.
Right. Where patients that are going through chemotherapy or the treatment for neurologic disorders are oftentimes requiring a far greater dose than 10 milligrams. So yeah,
you're absolutely right. Here in Colorado, take that for example, our medical line goes all the way up to 1,000 milligram products that are 50 milligrams per dose each. Now we give extra warnings, and we only want these for, medical patients using them for a specific need. But the fact of the matter is we need to get those products out there so that they can still find the benefits they're looking for. So when a physician encourages somebody to explore cannabis as an option, there are products out there that can meet their need. So it's really that, again, back to a range of products. It's, again, never one size fits all. And everybody needs to slowly learn what it is that is going to be their right and effective dose.
Yeah, and what you're doing is incredibly complex in creating your gummies, and as a pharmaceutical named Troche. So they have kind of benign name of referring to them as gummies, but they are medicine. And so you spoke about reintroducing terpenes into the formulation, the product formulation, whereas when you are going through the initial processes, is that the terpenes are actually extracted as part of this whole process. So, going to, the complexity of adding back in the terpenes, and then are you working with any strains or working with any companies that are focused on the genomics of a plant where that a strain may be far more conducive to processing into an edible product?
Yeah, we're actually looking at it from a couple of different angles. So, we believe that a lot of what can be unlocked from the benefits of cannabis comes from the different strains or chemovars that we see out there. But the other challenge is that chemovars change from state to state, even from
Right.
grower to grower, even from harvest to harvest within a single
Right.
grower. So the way that we've started innovating around this idea is consumers need a consistent product. That's another thing that healthcare providers are looking for when they want to recommend something, is that if our sativa gummies are going to change from harvest to harvest, how do you know it's going to be the right for that patient every time? What we've decided to do is really research strains and do 3D GCMS analysis of terpene components in varieties of strains that we know are beneficial or have specific effects. And what we do is we're working with some of the top terpene manufacturers to take organically sourced natural botanical terpenes and reintroducing them in the same ratios we see in these beneficial chemovars or strains. And that way we can create a profile that has an effect and replicate it every single time, so that we're not putting in different terpenes each time. We're actually looking at the dominant terpenes, the minor terpenes, even the other 20 or so trace terpenes that you would find in the cannabis plant. So that these blends aren't just 3 or 4 terpenes, it's actually a blend of 30 or more terpenes in each blend that we can reintroduce at an effective level, help with the bioavailability of them, and actually have an effect in our products with those terpenes. That way, patients and healthcare providers can understand that our product's going to be consistent. It'll have the same ratios of cannabinoids, the same ratios of effective terpenes every single time. That's the same if you go to California or Colorado or Maryland, they're all going to be able to be the same product.
Right, and perhaps as folks that are less familiar with the way that this state or the industry operates. So you're in Colorado, Wana is based in Colorado. You are not making and manufacturing your products there. You actually have licensed the intellectual property to a processor in, let's say, we'll use Maryland as an example. And so then they are taking the cultivars, the strains that they've grown here in Maryland, and then processing, doing the extraction, everything that goes into it. And so the gummies that are dispensed here in Maryland are made in Maryland.
Yes. So, effectively, there's 10 different production facilities, and everyone's different. And you can understand that with every licensee growing a different cultivar of Blue Dream, they might all actually be slightly different products. So what we're able to do is work with not only the licensee on how they're extracting and how are they getting their cannabinoids, but we can help them with sourcing specific blends, proprietary blends of terpenes that are designed for specific effects and utilize those the same every time, so that the product in Maryland is the same as what you're getting here in Colorado. And still has those beneficial terpenes to help with the entourage effect.
In the 9 states where you are, and including then the country, another country, Canada, any state in particular that is standing out more as advanced in their approach to developing products that are more medically focused?
Every state's actually very unique. I look to Colorado a lot just because it's been around for so long here. And we've seen a lot of innovations and maturity level of the market itself and maturity of consumers. California is unique because they've had the oldest medical, continuous medical program in the United States, but their market's a little bit newer. And then other states like Maryland are, I think, doing a great job at bringing in healthcare points of view and looking to how pharma develops product. And so every state has some pros and cons. And I think as the industry in general matures across all states, the best thing we can be doing is having regulators and industry leaders having conversations like we're having today, where we're talking about what each state's doing, because
Right.
we're not all going to get it 100% right. But some people are going to have wins in other areas. And we need to be talking about basically best cases, best use cases, and best practices for regulations, for product development, and having these so that we all learn from each other and we don't get siloed into thinking we've done it the best.
Right, and I think that's exactly one of the takeaways that how the pharmaceutical industry, the knowledge, assets, and experience of the pharmaceutical industry will bring to the medical cannabis industry of these good manufacturing processes, let alone when we're able to conduct some that FDA double-blind placebo gold standard clinical trials. And again, it's all about collaboration. I think you made a really great point, and it is a dream, right, to have all the markets sit down together, the regulators should speak to each other and share, as you said, every state, whether it's including social justice in the programs and the rollouts. And, it's great to see that, again, I'm partial to Maryland being here and being part of the nascent program here, but it's, moving forward and recognizing that there's lots of learning that we have to do with each other. So shifting a bit to, it is educating collaboration. So Cannabis MD, so we're very focused on physician education and advanced practice providers, and specific example of what we do is the Cannabis Science and Therapeutics Forum. So taking a look through your website, and I know this is under your leadership, is patient education. So you've got some terrific education points on there. So tell me more about that and where you'd like that to go.
It's so important. Cannabis is something new, not just to the medical space. We're just learning about the endocannabinoid system. We're just now seeing programs that are diving in deeper on educating our doctors and healthcare providers about it. Mm-hmm. But it means that the industry itself, and especially patients, don't have all the tools they need. So I see it as something that the industry should be working on, is to educate patients and to educate those who are working at the patient level, who are providing product, whether it be doctors, bud tenders. Everyone needs to have a better understanding of things beyond just product knowledge. So it's typical for brands to explain what their product is, but it needs to go a step further to explain what is an endocannabinoid system. Everybody has it, and understanding how everyone's can be different and how the different products can affect something like the endocannabinoid system. Understanding what are terpenes. We do a training on terpenes. Why are these important to be included, and what should we be understanding? As well as tips in safe use of cannabis. These are all things that are very important for everyone to have a good experience and to truly receive the benefits that cannabis can provide. So I see it as a very crucial piece that Wana provides this level of education, and something that I want to continue to improve on. And so one of the things that we do as far as our outreach is work with healthcare providers and clinicians to actually give a quick, clinical review of the training content for accuracy, as well as using the MS program that we're in together, Jackie, to take what we're learning at this level and to bring it down to the patient level and incorporate that into our trainings, making sure that there's an outlet for that through the brand.
Right, absolutely. And I think, to the point that there's so many things that you and I have been chatting about prior to this, is what we have learned, how our awareness has been raised, whether it be on the bioavailability. I've learned so much more about smoking and inhalation of pretty much immediate bioavailability versus the onset of an edible product. And, that adage that's critical is start low, go slow, and how that's best managed. with the growth of medical markets in the country, so we have 33 states, Guam and Puerto Rico have a medical program, and COVID being has had a significant impact in a positive way on the industry, and particularly for patients, where most of the states have declared a their medical programs essential businesses. So patients have had far greater and easier access, whether it be through drive-throughs or pickups across these different markets. So this is going to have, you know, a lot of conversation of the impact that this is going to have when we are out of COVID and what regs are going to stick. Maryland, again, is looking at that right now. Again, this critical need and positive improvement to access. But where this also is going is that there's a lot of conversation at looking at the medical cannabis industry as a way to help the state economies and the federal economies, or the federal economy, improve. And with that goes then states looking very seriously at adult use or creating these recreational markets. So when that happens, you know, I definitely, if you would share where I was going to say, I can guess what the impact is going to be on Wana Brands and the increase in demand. But what about what's going to happen to the medical programs, and where do you see the future of medical cannabis and Wana playing a role in that?
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's, I think, been a huge growth point during such a challenging time to see that medical cannabis has been deemed an essential business. Because it's absolutely true. This is medicine, and this is something that's helping people across our country, and to limit access to it would just be such a challenge. I mean, I saw it with my roommate back in college. If you take that away from somebody, they don't have access to their medicine, you're really impacting their lives.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and it's really important. And COVID's obviously also had an impact on governments and taxation, and some may turn to just quickly put in place an adult use market to generate revenue. And there'll always be room for that, and I think there's always a purpose for that. I believe that most adult use consumers and customers are actually using it in a very wellness-based sense. They're not just trying to get high, they're trying to relax at the end of the day, maybe get a little bit better sleep. And so I think that's truly how the adult use market's being used. But that's, in many ways, can forget the very important medical market like we have here in Colorado. And it would be my hope, and you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but that many other states see this as well and continue to see the importance of a medical market, and to make sure that this is a part of legislation that they have. Again, such an important reason for industry leaders to be having these conversations interstate. We want to be talking about the benefits that you can see in a state like this, and how it's being used as medicine. For that to happen, though, it gets right back to our point that we need to see more research. We need to have more use cases and more buy-in from healthcare providers that this is a medicine, and that there are certain products designed to help them out for specific use cases. And that's going to take rescheduling at the federal level. It's going to take more licensing for laboratories and research institutions to be able to conduct these studies. And it's going to go hand in hand, that you need to have both the medical market and the medical cannabis research to start supporting this. And I truly hope that our country as a whole sees how beneficial this plant can be, and the need for more research to expand this medical program.
My experience with a recent personal health care appointment was asking my provider about is she seeing her patients being far more forthcoming about being medical cannabis patients? And absolutely. And there is research that underscores that you and I have been studying in our program, looking across as states become decriminalized, and then a medical program comes into market, and if it moves forward to a recreational market, but that people are far more forthcoming about their use.
You know, kind of to that point, I know that the House is voting on a bill that would essentially legalize or decriminalize at a federal level which in many ways would be very
The MORE
exciting.
Act we're talking about, right?
Yes, the more
Yeah.
act. And in many ways it's exciting, but it's a bit concerning to me because I don't want to throw out the medical benefits of cannabis. And if we don't have this research and we just let the adult use market completely take over, we may end up missing the opportunity to use this as a medicine for people across the country. And so while I am an advocate for federal legalization, I want to see it done in a way that's a bit more stepwise and thoughtful, that we can actually deschedule and begin research on this at the same time that we're also doing something like legalization.
Yeah. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think, as Maryland is looking to establish in most likely within the next 3 years an adult use market, and I continually say is that the training wheels are still on. I mean, I would say across the country, in every market, the training wheels are still on. In particular, as we were talking about, is this the lack of research that we have to truly understand the benefits and how it happens and how we can improve and what additional diseases and disorders, and take your edible products and improve upon those. So that is one thing is, definitely what is critically important is to recognize that these federal regulations have been built upon racial injustice and prejudice. And, absolutely, we need to address that immediately. And make sure that communities that have been literally robbed of opportunity, whether to be in this industry or any industry, as the majority of the community members are incarcerated for just with unfair amounts.
It's really big, and it's something that Wana believes in wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
2020 is actually our 10th anniversary. We were founded in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and this is something we've always been a believer in, but we're really doubling down this year. Wana has been a supporter of the Last Prisoner Project that works
Mm-hmm.
on bringing nonviolent drug offenders out of prison to commute sentences. I mean, here, there's still so many people in prison that really should never have been there and don't need to be there. And just recently we launched a website called cannabisforjustice.com that's
Mm-hmm.
talking about all the initiatives that we're supporting in that area. I'd encourage viewers to check it out. It's an evolving website, but we're trying to put up as much information and resources for our patients and customers to take their own stand and take their own efforts there.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to close out on, so we have 2 semesters to go in our Masters of Science program. And we spoke about how each of us are definitely integrating that into our professional work already in the industry. What else would you like to do? When we complete this program, what are you going to do with your master's studies?
What I'm most excited about is learning more about the endocannabinoid system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in how cannabinoids work on a pharmacodynamic and pharmacokinetic level, how they interact with each other, what other receptors might be in the brain beyond CB1 and CB2 that have interaction.
Right.
What
all over the body,
right? Right, all over
Yeah.
the body. I think the main goal from an innovation standpoint at an edibles brand is to stay very close to the science and research, take what we're learning to keep evolving and improving our products, because we are just scratching the surface of what we know. And we're already seeing such incredible benefits, but there's more to come. There's more cannabinoids that we haven't discovered yet,
Mm-hmm.
or haven't found in clinically or commercially usable quantities yet. There's certain interplays between them and ways to improve our products further. And I think we're going to see a big diversification of what's possible with cannabis-based products. And
Mm-hmm.
creating and customizing and tailoring these products to each consumer's and patient's need is really the future. And I want to use this program to just help enrich my own understanding to develop new products and pass on that education to my company, the industry, and our patients at large.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that is where the innovation and opportunities in the future. And of note, or the keynote speaker, Dr. Rachel Knox, refers to it as the endocannabinoid dome, not just the system, but she's referring to the entire dome.
Yeah.
So on that note, thank you so much for your time and to be part of a CVMD video profile. Mike, again, will be part of the future of medical cannabis and cannabis industry as a whole on October 3rd at the Cannabis MD, Cannabis Science, and Therapeutic Provider Education Forum. So thanks again, Mike, and we'll see you October 3rd, and I'm sure I'll be talking with you prior to that, whether it's professionally or regarding your studies.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. Looking forward to it. I'll talk to you soon. Be well.
Thanks.